Thank you for still staying with us on your favorite newspaper review program. Well, it's time for us to get into the nitty-gritty and talk about the major stories that have made it to the headlines today. It's time for us to discuss. And on that note, we are now joined by our very own in-house analyst and the person, a very popular figure on TV anyway, in the person of Dr. Olamide. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have you on the program this morning.
Welcome, player.
Okay, so while we were on that break, we're having a conversation about one of the major stories that appeared on, I think, the Nigerian Tribune newspaper and also the Nation newspaper, and it says federal government to spend 22.44 billion naira on feeding 75,507 inmates. How do you react to this information?
Well, I actually want to let Nigerians know that 22.44 billion naira for the whole year for those inmates is not something that is negotiable. It's a normal thing, and that amount is not too much, if you ask me. In fact, if you check it very well, you discover that in America, a single inmate is entitled to $3 per day.
3.18, yes, but yeah, $3.
Let's say $3 per day,
okay,
right?
Yes.
Now, when you now change dollar to Nigeria currency, let's say 500. Let's just say, though at CBN service 400 and something. Let's say 500. Yes. Now, 500 naira in 3 places. That is 1,500. So
yes.
A single inmate will be having 1,500 per day. Now, 1,500 per day multiplied by 75,507. You see that per day you are having over 100 and something
113 million.
130 million naira.
Yes.
Now, multiply by 30 days. Multiply 113 by 30 days. You see
that is 3,397,815,000.
that is 3.5 billion,
yes,
approximately. Now, 3.5 billion naira per month multiplied by 12 months, you have close to 40 billion. So, I think with this proposition, it's not too much to ask for our inmates.
But then, what's the reason why I think this kind of news is making it to the front pages of our newspapers is because, you know, when some Nigerians get to see stories like this, they get apprehensive. You've done a surface level breakdown of how the money could have amounted to this level. But then the question on the lips of every Nigerian is, you use the United States of America as a case study. $3 per day. But then to a very large extent, you can attest to the fact that $3 will be spent on an inmate per day. Now, I think it's a little bit of lack of faith, lack of trust, lack of belief in the people who has been saddled with the responsibility of of ensuring that this money is being spent properly spent. So now let's talk about the credibility, the possibility of the fact that this amount will actually be spent
on
feeding the
now, let me just come in from this angle. This is Nigeria, where we have inflation, persistent increase in the price of goods and services. Always every day, price of goods and services increases in Nigeria. So even if at all we say, okay, fine, but an inmate in Nigeria cannot even use 500 naira to feed an inmate in Nigeria, and you expect that inmate to feel fine. 500 naira in the morning, 500 in the afternoon, 500. Though I have been to some correctional centers of which what those inmates are getting as food is not something to reckon with at all. We shouldn't be having such in our correctional centers. Fine, but what we are now saying is people that are officers that are designated to carry out this operation. it lies on them.
Okay.
Federal government had announced, this is what we budgeted for this. Now, another thing is for the officers in charge to assent to it, to affirm that they get that same amount of money from the federal government. Then number 2 is, how do they spend it? We need to have monitoring committee, monitoring squad that will ensure the usefulness of that money for the purpose of which it was budgeted. So we cannot actually assure ourselves that this is Nigeria, where everybody want to enrich his or her pocket just because of by the virtue of position you find yourself in. But to me, if peradventure this money is being used judiciously, the way it's supposed to, and for what it has been budgeted for, I think it is still normal. It is still a normal budget for feeding our inmates. Another thing is, you said we are feeding inmates, our inmates with this money. Are you sure? That's what Nigerians will be asking. Are you sure there are no chances of officers at the top getting their shares first?
And on the other side, a lot of calls has been made as regards the quality of food
that's what
that has been served to this inmate, because at the end of the day, in as much as they are in the correctional facilities and they are under some kind of
punishment,
a regimented life to kind of bring them back to reality and serving a punishment for an offense that has been committed. We cannot take away the fact that they still remain human and deserve some level of human treatment. But sometimes, if we look at the quality of food, if we look at the amount, prison congestion, that is a topic for another day. That is a topic for another day. But if we look at the quality of food on face level, we can always tell it's nothing to write home about.
Yeah, that's what I've actually said. I wouldn't want to mention some of the correctional centers I've been to, but in the Southwest here, I can tell you categorically that I've been to like 4 correctional centers, and it was a pathetic experience that I cannot even being an officer of the law, I don't advise what is actually happening there as touches feeding. It's ordinarily somebody that is actually serving his cause should, by every standard, be careful. As not that the person will now come out, you actually enter the correctional center with a better health, and you're leaving the correctional center with bad health status. It's something that we need to question, and it's something that Nigerians need to actually put their minds on and to ask question every day. It's just pathetic that most of Nigerians will not open their eyes, talk on what is necessary. We always believe that anything that is not political, we shouldn't take it up. Most of Nigerian youth, because political aspect of it will actually bring some change into your pocket. So for me, this is what we need to talk about. This is what Dr. Amadi will always talk about. I think I fought with one of the officers that very day. Not that we actually have physical combat, but I was like, how on earth you yourself, even if at all your family or anyone of your relative is actually served this food, how will you feel?
All right, now Doctor, hold your thoughts for a second. This is a reminder that our phone lines are now open. You can call in now to make your contributions, but then when you're calling, do ensure to keep the volume of your TV set as low as possible, so we can hear you and you can also hear us very clearly. Quite a lot has been said about the prison congestion, about the amounts that needed to be spent, that's going to be spent on feeding prison inmates. But then we really need to talk about we need to talk about other topics. But before we go into the scramble for the National Assembly leadership, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, has said he's reliving the PDP's glorious days, and he says the party is moving backwards. This is coming on the back of a failed presidential bid for now, and quite a number of petition before the presidential election petition tribunal. What are your thoughts on this?
Well,
coming from the presidential candidate of the party himself, whom a lot of figures in the party look to for inspiration.
Let me just come from this angle. Atiku Abubakar failed to realize that his mistakes brought PDP to what it is now.
How do you mean? You may want to share some light on that.
Exactly. Before the election, during the primaries and after the primaries, as the leader of the party, the candidate of the party, especially the presidential candidate of that party, you need to resolve your own before election. By all means. By all means. When I say by all means, I mean politically by all means. But he failed. He failed woefully to correct the abnormalities, to correct what's supposed to be corrected. He failed to bring together the aggrieved parties. He failed to make sure that the party is in one accord. He failed to make sure that the party is in unity. He failed to bring minds that has brought PDP to that state together so that they can actually have their victory during the presidential election. So even if at all you are not going to, the victory is not going to be yours during the presidential election, if you have put your own in order before then, believe me sincerely, by now, even if you don't have your president, I am very sure that PDP will have gotten the largest number in the House of Assembly and House of Representatives. So that will have helped them to fight their cause better as an opposition. You don't just fight blindly in politics just because of your own interest alone. I remember when I was contesting as a union officer, I was contesting for General Secretary that very time in my school days, Upper Family University. I remember very well vividly that I need to let some things go. Why? Not because of myself, but because of my school, because of my faculty. Even till today, my lecturers will be telling you that, no, this is a politician. And then, why do I let those things go? Somebody that contested and have won, treasurer, I will not mention the name, treasurer, recontested for vice president. From the same department that I have contested from. So, we are having two. We have another contestant for sports and social director. We have another contestant for the same treasury post that this person is leaving. So we were too much from one department.
From one department?
We are too many rather from one department. But I need to work my ways so that even if at all we are not going to get the GenSec, which is the live wire of the campus, then we should be able to get the vice president, the sport director, and we still need to get the Senate president. So I work my way with other schools. People are like, how will you sell your own glory because of another person? I said, it's not because of another person. It's just because my department and my faculty must be able to produce something. When executives are talking, then my faculty should be determining what will happen. If you actually have 3 executive officers from my department, we have legislative arms, and I still had the opportunity then to be the lead counsel of the justice from my chamber. So why will I be greedy? So greediness to me had pushed PDP to the state they are now. So if not for the greediness, why call these 5 agreed
governors.
Call them. This is what you want. Okay, forgo something for something. This, you are from your region. We have presidential candidates from your region. We are still having the chairman of the party, and from your region also, you still want to make sure that the committees, the National Working Committee members that are tangible from your, who does that? Nobody will want to accept that. And believe me, sincerely, people will have a better chance in just concluded election, having been they did not fall apart. So the falling apart brought them to this stage. So it is not even to him to be telling Nigerians or to be telling PDP that they are moving backward. We all know that what it cost is what is actually happening. So for me now, there is the sun on the sky is still enough for you to dry your cloth, and that is for you to prepare yourself for 2027. 2027. And apart from that, that is for you to prepare for what is coming to the opposition. Not only you, opposition parties in the National Assembly. If peradventure you can resolve your home very quickly now, I think you can still bring some opposition party at National Assembly to your side, and you make a majority. When you make majority, then you'll be able to fight your cause, not at the detriment of Nigerian citizens, but to favor Nigerian citizens. And by then, by 2027, we could have actually been saying, okay, fine, since their senators has done this, their honorables, their national representative have done it, then we should have a presidential candidate from them that will do better. So that is just it. But for now, I don't think Atiku Abubakar should be telling us that we know very sure that he made this mistake. So he should just correct his mistake by going around, make peace, and let the party move forward. It's as simple as that.
Okay. Talking about you made mention of the National Assembly. It becomes pertinent for us to talk about the National Assembly and the leadership, the scramble for leadership, and particularly in the APC. There has been moved to pacify the aggrieved aspirants, and in this vein, the national chairman has called on the aggrieved aspirants to stay calm for now, and he also disclosed that proper consultations were not made before the initial zoning formula. Now let's take a look at the whole situation. Let's take a very microscopic look at the situation now. The president is from the south. The vice president is from the northeast. I think is from the north. There are so many calls for the northwest. The northwest in particular, there has been a very, very heavy call for the Senate presidency seat to be zoned to the northwest. And in that vein, I think Governor Abdulaziz Yari, His Excellency Abdulaziz Yari, he came out unequivocally to disclose that the Northeast deserve the Senate presidency seat. Let's not shove aside the recent, according to the APC, that the Senate presidential seat has been zoned to the south, and only one name comes to mind: Senator Godswill Akpabio. What are your thoughts on the whole situation, considering the fact that the APC national chairman is admitting that proper consultations were not made and now making moves to pacify the aggrieved aspirants?
Well, let me first of all come from this angle before I'll actually answer that question straight and forward. The question I want to ask National Assembly now is, do we now have a National Assembly that have to be submitting to the executive? That's the question. Peradventure, if yes is the answer, then we have nothing to say about National Assembly being independent again. Because I can see moves up and down, that, moving to president-elect, to get the approval. If you peradventure, when the president will be, after the president has been sworn in, then he happens to be the one that chose you as his favorite to be the Senate president. If there is any issue or any abnormalities from the president, you won't be able to actually say nay to whatsoever he's doing. That means we are still in tune. So we are still in mess in this country for such steps being taken by the National Assembly members. So first, that is that. I am not seeing an independent National Assembly in this coming administration again, which happened in this administration, and that's what brought us into this really mess that we have. So, and that is why a president could actually think of borrowing. A president could actually think of borrowing a huge amount of money that is even more than $800 million. That is even more than the budget of the whole year. After we actually borrowed larger percentage of larger percentage of the budget
of the national
budget. So to me, I think what we have now is a silent dog national assembly that all you need to do is they are just a pet.
So are you anticipating another rubber stamp national?
This one is not even going to be a rubber stamp. This is just rubber stamp is a way too good language to use for this coming national assembly. If this I will not refer to this as coup. If this plan is sustained and they actually have their victory, then that means you see it as we don't have National Assembly. We just have a bench warmers in that building, and for the 4 years, then we'll still be thinking of what to do in the next 4 years. For me, and even the House of Representatives. Now, let me now come back to your question about the zoning. Let's be sincere to ourselves. South-West are the president-elect. North-East as the vice president. So we have Senate president that have come from Southeast. Are you getting me? North Central, Northwest.
Northwest.
But now let's give South. Forget about whatsoever was being done during the election. No. It is a normal that every person, every region, every state will have their interest when election is around the corner. But after the election, it is now the duty of the president-elect to unify everybody, because you are not governing on Southwest or a particular aspect of the continent. Now you are the father of the whole nation, so you see everyone as yours because you are actually leading everyone. So to me, zoning Senate president seats to South is a welcome idea for me. I love that because fine, I love that because fine, they will have something to reckon with. Fine. This is all-inclusive governance. Now, apart from that, now let me now so away from that. Another thing that needs to come to our mind is, do we have a capable hand in this zone? If there is no capable hand, if there is no a competent person, then any zone that we have the competent person, then let the Senate president come from that zone. I don't care about not having the vice president, the Senate president, the Speaker of House of Assembly, if the candidates that are coming from there are the most qualified ones. I don't mind president coming from Southwest, Senate president coming from Southwest, then Speaker coming from Southwest, if the candidates here are the most qualified. I don't mind even from the South side that we have the Senate president. From the South side, we still have the Speaker of the House. From South side, we have the Secretary to the federal government. If we have qualified
on the ground of competency, But then, if you talk about if you are taking the Senate presidency to the South,
I am not taking it. I'm just saying
and I'm talking to you on the ground of probability. Now, if all these possibilities you've talked about now are in place, then where's the place of equity?
Yeah. Now when we talk about equity, we talk about many of us, especially Nigerians, used to misuse the word equity or misunderstand the word equity. Equity in governance is not about sharing posts, having a formula for sharing posts. It is about giving every zone, every region, the percentage of the welfareism they actually merit and that's supposed to go to them. For example, let me take Yar'Adua's regime as example. Yar'Adua came from North, but during his regime, you see what he did in Niger Delta. That is equity. Not because you came from somewhere and you now be favoring that place, that region. That is equity. It is not about sharing because, okay, now, let's be scenario right. You because of equity, if peradventure in a union comprises of 6 geopolitical zones, we have a professor in our midst, we have doctors in our midst, the professor came from north or from south, doctor from north central. Then we now have let's say a senior secondary school certificate holder coming from southwest. You now want to make the president of that union, and the rule and the requirement says you must pick the president that has professorship, and the vice president, your vice president must be at least holding doctorate. You now, because of equity, you now want to pick somebody from, because the person that the outgoing president is from north central, so you now want to pick somebody from southwest that is holding just SSC. That's not equity. The equity is when they are in government, will they do the normal? Will they do the right thing for all the citizens that they are governing on? If that is yes, then to me, I don't have any issue.
Okay, quickly, I must take a look at the story that's on the Punch newspaper. It says Buhari Osibajo governors get 651 million naira hardship allowance, and these are people who receive salaries. So that's my office while they are still in government. As a matter of fact, and there's research by Punch newspaper that says this is 50% of what they receive annually. And over the past time of Buhari's regime, Buhari should have actually received just a total of 14.08 million naira as hardship allowance. But now we are seeing 651 million naira hardship allowance. How do you react to this?
It's me.
Well, just to add to what Bobby has said, 651 million naira on hardship allowance for President Muhammadu Buhari, Osibajo, and a couple of governors. This is coming from the same government that have spoken so loudly about cutting down the cost of governance. So, what really are your thoughts?
Well, let me let Nigerians know that anything that has to do with government, politicians, is yes, and when it is for the masses, it's no. Okay. So, it's only when they don't. It's only when it concerns masses that they refer to as Nigeria is being broke. But when it is their boss, Nigeria is rich. Now, let's be sincere to ourselves. For the whole 8 years that you've spent, or you're spending, as the president and the vice president, you see what Nigerians pass through under you. What other hardship could have inflicted into Nigerian citizens' life that this government had not inflicted. So, no Nigerian, as a single Nigerian, no single Nigerian is qualified to have hardship allowance. But you, the president, the vice president, the governors that has been living and working and getting benefit from our tax Commonwealth. Our tax, our Commonwealth is now talking about hardship allowance again. Don't forget that what they don't know that we knew is when you are traveling, all your traveling expenses is in Nigeria. You want to eat, all your expenses is in Nigeria.
Ask if they actually experienced any form of hardship.
Are you getting it? It's in Nigeria.
Yes.
Your health is in Nigeria, and at the same time, even that food that you are eating, you still collect food allowance, despite the fact that we are the one providing the food. Whether they don't know that we knew that. Now, despite all that, during for the whole 8 years, you still want to have your 600. Let me just make it to 600 million. 600 million naira. 600 million naira will actually change the lives of over 600 million, over 600 Nigerians. If 600 million could change 600 Nigerians' life, why not doing that instead of? And don't forget, you said you do not have money. You want to go and borrow money. Means and waste is there. And don't forget that IMF said we are on the fence. We are sitting on the fence now. And we could be affected negatively. That our economic growth will come down drastically if markets is not changed. If the world market is not changed, if we have issues as we're having in that, don't forget investors are actually driving out their investment.
All right, now, Dokita, our time is fast spent, but we'd have to talk about this in the next 2 minutes. And this is in preparation. This is in the light of preparation for the hearing of the president of the indigenous people of Biafra's case on September 14th. We all know by September 14th there will be a new administration. The President General of the Ohanese Indibo, Chief Dr. Emmanuel Iwanyanwu, has made a passionate call to President Muhammadu Buhari to release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. This he described as a parting gift to the Igbo nation, and he also went forward to describe President Muhammadu Buhari as an Igbo son and an honorary member of the Ohanese Indigo. What do you what are your thoughts on the release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu at the moment?
Well, to me, releasing Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is right. Don't let us jettison that. It is right. But the call from the president of Ohanese Indigo is somewhat too cheap to me. That a president should use releasing someone as a parting gift. No, that's too cheap. Releasing Kanu is not a gift. It is his right. So why asking him
looks like they are begging.
Like you are begging. It is not to beg the government as the president to release him. If the president cannot, it's just a persuasive word. Like, okay, Yoruba people will say, that means let's just call a madman brother so that it will give us way to go.
Give us the way to go.
So that is exactly what the president of Ohanese Indigo is actually doing. To me, Kanu deserves to be released. It is his right, because court has said you should release him. So I don't see any reason why we should be having a very cheap begging way of releasing Mazi Kanu. To me, and another thing is referring Muhammadu Buhari as honorary. You don't need to please him just because he wants to.
Now, Doctor, our time is fast spent, but before we go, we really have to thank you for taking out your time to do justice to some of the headlines we have read out to the audience today. Once again, thank you for your time. We look forward to seeing you some other time again. And this is where we draw the curtain on this week's edition of your #1 newspaper program, The Press, reaching you live from the Abuja studios of KAFTAN TV. My name is Francis Adeniy. Do well to have a beautiful weekend ahead.
And I am Amadi Poppy James. Have a beautiful Friday.